I'm having a vision of Tri-Klops. Today we're going to be playing with Tri-Klops. Tri-Klops was one of my absolute favorites as a kid. I've got my original one here from the 80s. He's not doing so well these days, so I've got him preserved in my shadow box art. Tri-Klops was a villain, one of the evil warriors, one of Skeletor's henchmen, and he was essentially kind of basic. There wasn't a ton of characterization going on for him, and he didn't even really have like a gimmick per se in his toy, but he had a very cool look. He was essentially modeled after the Greek mythological character of the Cyclops, except instead of having one eye, he had three, and they were positioned in his space-age visor. And you could twist it around and choose different eyes to put in his eye position. And they did different things. They shot laser bolts. They had gamma vision. They had X-ray vision. He could see through walls. All kinds of cool things. Anything your imagination could come up with, then Tri-Klops' eyes could do. One thing that was kind of cool about Tri-Klops is that he was one of the only evil villains that was like fleshy and kind of had a humanoid-ish body. Now, a lot of the villains were monstrous in their molds. Specifically, they had sort of claw and webbed sort of reptilian or aquatic features to them. Skeletor had the webbed feet. Of course, Merman would have had like aquatic webbing to his mold. Then they had beastly type bodies that looked hairy and had the little bare feet. So there were different molds, and a lot of the more monstrous molds were for the bad guys or the villains. But Tri-Klops just got a straight up human body. In fact, he had the He-Man body, just with the different armor and the different head. So because he had the He-Man body, there is some discussion out there as to whether or not the He-Man body mold was actually more buff than the Skeletor body mold. Were the biceps of the human arm bigger than the biceps of the reptilian claw? It was a debate from the 80s, and it's kind of hard to tell in the Origins re-release, so we'll just chalk it up to urban legend. It's kind of like trying to figure out if a small McDonald's French fry and a large McDonald's French fry is actually the same amount of French fries, just in a different box. Another cool thing that Tri-Klops had that none of the other characters had initially was a place on his armor to sheath his sword. So you could actually like put it behind him when he wasn't in battle. And it looked really cool. And we always kind of wished that Prince Adam also had that for his power sword. Now, as I said, his characterization in the 80s was pretty basic. He was just a henchman, and as most of Skeletor's henchmen, kind of bumbling and played for laughs. And like many of the characters in the 2000 reboot, things got real serious. So in the Icons of Evil comic that fleshed out his characterization, we got a real dark and sad story. In that story, Tri-Klops had been living with a scientist, a mechanical wizard. I'm going to use my robot to pretend to be him. And he was caring for Tri-Klops because he had been injured in a battle and was blinded by that. So he was taking care of him. And Keldor wanted all of the knowledge and science and scientific magic that the science wizard had. And so he convinced Tri-Klops that his caretaker actually didn't care for him at all and was just keeping him in a psychological prison, and actually was keeping him more blind. And Keldor said that he could show him the way, and he could really help him and care for him and help him see the truth. So Tri-Klops ended up destroying his wizard caretaker and giving all of the magic and wizard sorcery over to Keldor, who then, of course, big reveal, was lying all along. And he tricked Tri-Klops into this whole terrible situation. And so the twisted moral of the story was that Tri-Klops could see everything except the truth. In the 2000s era of Masters of the Universe, the stories were very deep and very heavy, not at all silly like they were in the 80s.
There's a place where the ladies dance. X-ray vision, now's your chance. I see London, I see France, I see Tila's underpants.
Tri-Klops seems to be showing up more and more in the promotional material for the movie that's coming out this summer. He's been showing up in the new trailers, in the little vignettes, in the posters, and he's slated to be the next wave of the Origins figures. I can't wait for that. I also can't wait to see how they handle his character in the movie. And I guess that could be said for all of the henchmen of Skeletors. Are they going to flesh them out? Are they going to give them stories? Or are they just going to be kind of cool-looking background characters, thugs there to help Skeletor reign terror over Eternia? I guess we'll find out. So thanks for joining me as we took a look at life through the lens of Tri-Klops. Good journey, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.